Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Spirit draw near. Struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. 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 Spirit draw near.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan's online Sunday service. I'm the Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, serving our community as senior minister. Whether you are joining us from Ann Arbor itself, elsewhere in Michigan or our nation, or even from elsewhere in the world, we bid you a very warm welcome. We are grateful that you have chosen to be in community with us for the purposes of spiritual nourishment and inspiration. In particular, if you are newer to our community, we hope that you'll join us for our live online social time that takes place immediately following the service. When you join us in that Zoom space, we hope that you'll let our greeters there know right away that you are a newcomer, and they'll help connect you with all the right folks. This Sunday, we also hold in our hearts and celebrate all those among us who are dads or granddads or uncles or other positive male role models, teachers, mentors, figures in our life who have mattered. If you are a dad or dad-like person or honoring and celebrating one in your life, we offer and extend to you a very happy Father's Day. This is a special Sunday in a number of ways, and in one of those other ways, we are also bidding farewell to two very dear staff members on our staff team, one of whom we'll be hearing from shortly, Reverend Lindasusan Ulrich. Reverend Lindasusan will be offering to our community today her final and parting guidance and reflections for us. We are so grateful to you, Reverend Lindasusan, as we enter into this time of appreciation and bidding farewell. We love you and care about you. We also join together in bidding our office manager, Debbie, a fond farewell as she leaves our staff team at the end of the month. At Debbie's request, we invite those members of our community who wish to extend their appreciation to her to write to her in care of the office, and we will make sure that all such expressions of love and care and appreciation appropriately reach Debbie. For now, wherever you may be, whatever your journey up until here has been, we invite you to gather together in the spirit of community and in the spirit of love that holds us all. Come, let us join together.
Peace, truth, love, action. These are the building blocks by which we build our community with each other. These are the foundations by which we mean to make a difference in the world. So we light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Join me, will you, from wherever you are. Say with me the words we use to ordain our next steps in this day as a collective body of spirit and goodwill. The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another. So may it be among us now and each time we gather.
Rosie Revere, Engineer, by Andrea Beatty and David Roberts. This is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lila Greer's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer's stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye and made fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser and helium pants. The uncle she loved most was zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head, from parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps the pythons away. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud. But Fred slapped his knee and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. "I love it," Fred hooted. "Oh, I truly do." But Rosie Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day kept her dreams to herself. And that's how it went until one autumn day, her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great-great-aunt Rose was a true dynamo who'd worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of the things she had done and goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams. That night, as Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, a daring idea crept into her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at the cheese hat and said, "No, not I." But questions are tricky, and some hold on tight. And this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. She worked and she worked till the day was half gone, then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The helio cheese copter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled round and round, then froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. Then Rosie heard laughter and turned round to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who thought, "Oh no, never, not ever again will I try to build something to sputter or spin, or build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer." She turned round to leave, but then Great-Great-Aunt Rose grabbed a hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close, and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. "You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try! This great flop is over. It's time for the next." Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. "I failed," said dear Rosie. "It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The cheese copter crashed." "Yes," said her great aunt, "it crashed, that is true. But first it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew." "Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and on to the next." She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. They worked till the sun sneaked away to its bed. Aunt Rose tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 build gizmos and gadgets and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Revere. The end.
The Reverend Theresa Soto often says, "All of us need all of us to make it." That has always been true, and it is true today. Whether this is your first or second time with us, whether you have been a member for years, whether you live in Ann Arbor or nearby or time zones away, we are here together but apart in this holy moment, because each moment in community is holy. We are here because of each one of us, sharing our gifts with each other. All of us need all of us to make it. Each week we receive the offering, an opportunity to share one of your gifts with us. Your contributions ensure that our community can continue to support itself. We invite you to give to UUAA as generously as you're able. You may do so by clicking the link in the chat box or going to uuaa.org/giving. The offering is gratefully received.
Dear friends, I invite you into this time of meditation. And young folks, if you have some Legos, are they ready? We'll use some now. Right now, the world may feel like this, all jumbly and unsettled, confusing and chaotic. It seems there are no instructions for how to assemble all these pieces and make sense of the world again. For 3 months, we've been trying to figure out how to keep people from getting really sick from a virus. And for centuries, for hundreds of years, we who are white have ignored the human rights of Black people. Let's find a place of stillness within ourselves, a place that will let us be quiet enough, long enough, so we can hear the instructions that tell us what we need to do to help heal the world and keep each other safe. To be quiet enough to hear the voices that have been telling us and are telling us yet again what change must happen so that Black lives truly matter, so that brown and indigenous and queer and trans lives matter, that Black lives matter. If we can be quiet enough, long enough, we will understand the instructions that will show us how to build something out of this jumble, to build a beloved community. But we must build on something, a strong foundation. Will you help me think about what that could be? What is that for you? It might be people or things or ideas that you hang on to, that ground you, that help you know who you are. Today is a day dedicated to recognizing fathers and father figures. Perhaps it's an uncle, a grandfather, or a mother who you choose to recognize today. Maybe you have 2 fathers or a stepfather. Maybe you have a complicated, painful relationship or no relationship with your dad. Maybe you have a caring and loving relationship with the person you call dad. Maybe whoever you call your father is someone who created a foundation in your life. Fathers, mothers, caregivers, mentors, ministers, friends, all can create foundations. So can our values and what we believe in. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm that we are all connected in this world. What I do affects you, and what you do affects me, and what we do affects those around us and our community and the world. This has never been more evident to me than it is at this moment in time. It is one of the bricks in my foundation. So as we spend some time in this meditation, I ask you to pick up blocks out of your pile of Legos, or just focus your attention on the blocks I will hold. Name the people, things, values that form your foundation in life. You might want to name them out loud, or write them in the chat, or hold them silently in your heart. Take a moment with each one. Pay attention to what it's telling you. and breathe. I name my grandmother. I name solitude. Teachers. Singing. Spirit of life, of love, creative energy. Surround us and embrace us. Ease our pain and strengthen our resolve. Help us to find a place of quiet and stillness within. A place that forms the foundation from which we will build the beloved community. Support us in this time of pandemic and in this time of great transformation as we build a healthier, more just, more peaceful world. Amen.
One huge benefit of parenting a kid who's into Legos is that I get to play with Legos too. I love when RJ and I collaborate on putting sets together, or when he wants me to help him build starships. Sometimes we'll just sit in his room in a companionable silence, working on totally different projects. With the warmer weather, we'll often put a blanket in the front yard and bring out bins of blocks to play with. One afternoon, as I was assembling the Iron Man Hall of Armor, and RJ was creating his secret spy base, whatever it was he was working on fell apart, and he got upset. So I acknowledged his frustration and said, well, the great thing about Legos, though, is that when something breaks, you can mend it. To which my minister's brain immediately added, just like with Covenant. Now, unless your Legos get mangled or melted, you can keep rebuilding structures and hopefully learn how to make them stronger. Thus it is with covenant. We're all going to mess up from time to time because we're all human. And when we do, the promises that we've made to each other are something we can come back to. We can own our mistakes, do our best to mend the relationship, and maybe find that our bonds become stronger in the process. Well, once my brain started down that road, I realized more and more that I'd tapped into a rich and powerful metaphor for spiritual community. Now, my favorite way to engage with Legos is to start putting together pieces that capture my attention and see what emerges. I think of it as a kind of three-dimensional doodling. Now, sometimes I come up with an interesting pattern, or maybe it starts to take shape as something like, I don't know, a sea creature, or a particular kind of building, or a mode of transportation, or maybe all three at once. During quarantine, I've found myself creating characters and scenes that express something about the times we're living in. It all started when I ran across a Lego raven mask that reminded me of an engraving of a plague doctor. Now, I found appropriate black clothing and a black cape to mimic the doctor's frock. I gasped aloud, though, when I realized that I could use a golden snitch from one of the Harry Potter sets for the winged hourglass on the top of the doctor's staff. In those early days of shelter in place, I found that my little plague doctor was somehow comforting. In spiritual community, it's also important to experiment and try out different practices and programs, not knowing whether they'll be something that sticks around. They might not pan out at all. But the ideas and creativity generated will keep the channels open for more inspiration, more nimbleness, more willingness to try new things. Part of that nimbleness is knowing your community's purpose. Because if you try to be all things to all people, then you'll be spread so thin that you won't have enough substance to maintain work that's, well, substantive. By focusing on key priorities, like the ones that emerged from the Vision 2050 process, you strengthen your ability to make change. Legos also teach us that we're less resilient when we're siloed. When programs are disconnected from each other, it's all too easy for the congregation's sense of cohesion to fall apart. But when we collaborate and honor our interconnectedness at a structural level, we create a solid foundation for everything else. When we have the power to build, whether with Legos or in the congregation, it's important to stay mindful of what and how we're building. Just as a hammer can be used for construction or destruction, spiritual community can get weaponized. The values that we cherish can get distorted in ways that undermine the very principles they purport to uphold. In a recent example in our denomination, an author wanted to claim his right to a free search for truth and meaning, but refused to take any responsibility for its impact. He wasn't even willing to have a conversation with the people he'd harmed. How can covenant be repaired when one party just takes their toys and goes home? The weaponizing can be more subtle, too, because let's face it, we Unitarian Universalists can get kind of smug. It's not a good look. I mean, we sometimes act as though we invented social justice advocacy, and we trumpet our openness to different belief systems while scoffing at the Hebrew and Christian scriptures. the underlying and often unconscious message is that our tradition makes us somehow better, smarter, more enlightened, more woke than other people. In reality, we're just as human and fallible as anyone else. Luckily, Legos provide another sign of hope, because we can dismantle systems that are harmful and insist on building a new way. And we can keep getting better at it. For example, when I was a kid, the blocks only came in 6 colors: red, yellow, blue, green, black, and white. Over time, though, people wanted to express more of how the world actually is. They wanted more nuance to express their understanding of the world, which is why there are now 66 colors: orange, magenta, pink, purple, tan, a whole bunch of blues, light green, light gray, dark gray, silver. Similarly, the shapes have undergone a transformation, with an array of specialized and versatile features that let you do everything from igniting a blaze to propelling a car across the floor. The minifigures, which weren't introduced until 1978, have a variety of skin colors even. Perhaps the most important aspect of this entire Lego spiritual community metaphor is the deep joy that can be found in both. Now and then you might step on something sharp and get a bit hurt, but the overarching experience for me is life-giving. And that has certainly been the case during my time here at UUAA. For the last 5 years, I've had the joy of traveling with this congregation. We've been through many changes together, but the meaning-making, the grief, the laughter, and the love have threaded throughout. I've had the privilege of working with just an outstanding set of colleagues. Please never take their depth and brilliance for granted, because such talent doesn't come around often, much less all in one place. I've had the honor of seeing my own ministry thrive and take root here. I mean, I can't tell you how much it means to me that the phrase radical welcome, which I don't believe was a regular part of the UUAA lexicon before I arrived, that phrase is now a key element in the congregation's long-term vision. That blows me away. You've trusted me to officiate your weddings, bury your dead, hang out with your kids, engage your minds, sing to your spirits, and comfort your hearts. In other words, we have been profoundly human together. I can't think of anything more sacred. Keep building on what you're doing here, friends. Try. Fail. Try again and fail better, just like Rosie Revere. And be kind to each other throughout it all. Congregational life is not about doing things perfectly. It's about staying in relationship while you experiment and learn. It's about keeping your focus on where you want to go and making sure that everyone can get there together. It's about remembering that no one is beyond the embrace of the love that holds us all, and that we are one of the ways that that love expresses itself. I'm grateful beyond words for my time at UUAA. You will always be the congregation that ordained me, You will always be the congregation where I attained full fellowship. You will always be woven into the very fabric of my ministry. May your creativity, interconnectedness, humanity, and joy flourish. Ashe, Amen, and blessed be.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way.
Before we close, I wanted to invite you to the Zoom social hour immediately following the service. Just go to uuaa.org/social hour and it will redirect you to the right place. Also, next Sunday, UUAA will join thousands of other Unitarian Universalists for the Sunday morning worship connected with General Assembly. Please be sure to go to our website to find out more details, including the different start times. In uncertain times, keep coming back to the things that bring you joy. Take the work seriously, but also make room for your creativity and a sense of playfulness. When you're centered in that place, everything flows more easily. My friends, the word farewell is itself a benediction, and my most earnest hope for you. So let us go forth with courage and with kindness to be a blessing to the world. thank you. And I love you. Amen.
But wait, don't leave just yet. We have a special surprise for Reverend Lindasusan, one that she doesn't even yet know about herself, so you'll be learning about it at the same time that she is. One of the joys and privileges I've had in the past couple of years as I've gotten to know Reverend Lindasusan has been the experience of her profound connection to the sacred art of drumming. All around the world, sacred drumming is a practice in many different traditions and in many cultures. And if you've had the experience of being present to Reverend Lindasusan in one of our services or in another setting where she has shared her drumming, you can appreciate, and probably have appreciated as I have, that it is a very profound and deep spiritual connection and practice for her. In honoring that, in recognition of that, we are presenting to you, Reverend Lindasusan, a handmade sacred Lakota ceremonial drum. This is known as a powwow drum. It's handmade of buffalo hide with a very resonant, deep sound to it. And it's one that we know and trust that as your ministry continues unfolding, as your journey continues, that you will find ways to share this very special gift inside of you, this connection to the sound of drumming with others. In honor of that, and in honor of this gift, which we will find a healthy and appropriate way to transfer over to you, I invite the community members to join me in a moment of prayer and blessing of this sacred object, this sacred instrument. Holy One, Spirit of love and life, all that we may each hold sacred and dear, we ask for your blessings on this instrument, on this gift from a beloved community to a departing member who is beloved to us. May this beautiful, sacred reminder always be one that carries the love of this community, of our community, with and for Reverend Lindasusan. We also hope and ask and pray that this drum channel and allow that gift of sacred music to be one that Lindasusan can joyously bring and share with so many others, as many as is possible. We recognize that the world needs more healing, and we hope and pray that this sacred instrument and Lindasusan in her ongoing ministry may serve as an instrument of that, with our deepest love, our fondest farewells, and our blessings. May it be so. Go in peace.